What's up, guys? My name is Cody Luongo, and welcome to The Reload, your live weekly Counter-Strike broadcast, bringing you the best of the news, competitive action, the funnies in between, just keeping it interesting and bringing you all the entertainment around this beautiful esport. Today, we have a pretty stacked show for you. As always, got a quick bit of news. Finesse returning to United. DreamHack Masters announced a new stop. Some news with Vitality. Epicenter going on. We have the playoffs right now in action, and Liquid of Vanguard just wrapped up, so we'll get into some of that action as well. And obviously, a huge story this week was the Forsaken cheating drama, so we'll get into all that right now. But let's go ahead and bring our guest today. My first guest, I want to go as far as to call him a resident Reload guest, almost somewhat of a co-host. He's been on the show before. Plenty of times. He knows the drill. He's been in the game for a long time. If you played CS, you know his name. His name is who? His name is what? His name is It's DaBears, baby. Let's bring him in. What's up?
I'm basking it in, baby. I'm just basking, just wrap it around me like robes and just cover myself. I'm visualizing me being lifted above humanity as you say this, and I feel like a golden god. I appreciate that, and thank you for that intro.
Yeah, you just toppled me there.
Yeah,
I thought I was coming in hot with the little Eminem reference, but you just match it.
You're going hot. I mean, you lifted me up to greater heights than I've ever known, and just the confidence, the love,
and then I destroy you. I come in and I destroy you.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I wanna be free.
I can't. I could never. How you doing, buddy? What's the latest in the Bears news today?
Same old. I've been doing yoga a lot more lately.
Always the yoga.
Feeling flexible. I'm losing weight, eating healthier, stuff like that.
That's good news.
Playing a lot of CS.
I see that.
Haven't been doing great, but I've been playing a lot of CS, so the dream is there.
That's good. Working for that Cloud9 roster spot.
I get my skill to my brain.
I see.
This is where I want to be. I'm right here. All right. I'm below that. I need to uplift myself. So hopefully, you guys can give me the energy.
Anything's possible. I watched the stream a couple weeks back. You saw it.
Thank you.
Playing a pretty simple death match. And just
I was getting warmed up. Get 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in. I practice all my sprays. Practice different techniques. Hasn't helped much, but it's the idea. I'm trying.
All right, man.
That's what I do.
Well, I feel a little rude because we're having all this fun right here, but we still got our guest in the lobby. So our second
one guy
guest.
out.
Well, let's go ahead and get him in here. He's on the show last week. He was the first person that came to mind when the Forsaken drama or news broke last week, earlier this week. Perfect man for the job. He has a pretty comprehensive knowledge of the Asian Indian Counter-Strike space, and he's also known as the Asian Counter-Strike expert. Let's bring him in. Sudhen, Bleh, how are you, pal?
I'm doing well. It's been some interesting times. I'm just enjoying the bromance going up between two of you. It's nice to watch.
Oh,
you're part of this. Now it's become a triangle now. See what
I'm like sandwich between two of you, so I'm like the meat in the sandwich right now. So
from the layout perspective, I dig it.
How's India been? India seems like it's having a rough time right now.
Oh yeah, lot of stuff happening right now. Pretty mostly bad, but some good things come out of it. I'm sure we're going to be talking more about it. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Like I was here on the show last week, and immediately, I think 12 hours after that, boom, I wake up to my phone just exploding with notifications and messages, and dude, you all right? I'm like, are you fine? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What happened? And it was unbelievable, right? But yeah, some interesting times.
Obviously, you're referencing the news about Forsaken and the cheating, correct? Mm-hmm. It's not like some global war going on in India that I'm.
That's what I thought. That's honestly what I thought. I'm like, all right, is this it? Is this it? Is this the end of the world? Is it some bomb going off or something? And turned out to be something very similar. It was Forsaken, just doing
destroying things Indian esports in one swoop, almost. Set it back a couple notches right there.
Yeah, definitely was some big news. We'll get into that real quick, more of the Forsaken drama. We got some clips and stuff to bring that story to life, and obviously get the expert opinions of Bleh. And actually, on that note, Bleh, I got to ask you real quick before we get started on anything, because I got Bear's side of the story on this, but I got to know, what is the origination of the name Bleh? Like, where does that come from? How did you come up with that one?
All right, see, like, as the Bears would know, back when we were playing video games, a long time back on the internet, everyone had really cool names, like, Death Seeker, Necro Butcher and stuff like that. And it got to a point. It kind of got to a point where I kind of got a little sick and tired with all the lead speak and certain names you couldn't even understand what it was, and I'm like, you know what, Bleh, literally.
Bleh.
Just Bleh.
It kind of stuck. Look, if I knew I was getting into this esports business, I'd probably choose a cooler name like DaBears. But you know what? It's fine. It's okay. I can live with it.
Okay. Yeah. For lack of sounding kind of cheesy, I'm like, it's so Bleh. You know what I mean? The name. No offense, obviously.
You explain the story nicely. Just name that a spite. Bleh. You like disgust. Name you're disgusted by these people.
Pretty much.
And you ran with
Pretty
it.
much.
I like it.
All right. Yeah. See, I had to ask DaBears. I'm obviously thinking totally unaware of his situation, his story, which he later told me was from an SNL skit. But I'm thinking, one summer, Bears is on a camping trip with his family. Steps outside the tent. Here's a little ruffle in the bushes. Like a big bear comes out. Erik whips out a deagle. Boom, one tap. Guy goes down, saves the day. The world is saved. That's what I was thinking, at least.
Family showering with food.
I would be surprised.
Right. I like it. I'm a family saver.
Right on. Well, let's go ahead and kind of jump into this quick segment, which is in the news, just lining up the weekly topics and stories of this week. So if we can go ahead and roll that clip right now, we'll get into it. First off, Finesse returning to E United, the former CLG and C9 tactician, replacing Ace in the E United roster. He's taking over the in-game leader position. He filled in for the team during ECS on Monday. He has actually been away from competitive CS for quite a while, since July, so it's been about 2 to 3 months. Moving ahead, though, we got Dallas hosting the DreamHack Masters stop in May. The Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center will host the $250,000 event over here in the U.S. 2019 will be the first US-based DreamHack Masters event since Denver in 2017. And I don't know if you guys happened to catch the promo ad, but it was a minute-long advertisement of a burger. But anyway, moving ahead, we got Vitality punching their ticket to DreamHack Atlanta. They missed the ship for IEM Chicago, but they managed to clinch this one in about 3 weeks. Will be their first LAN event. The clinch a spot is the European qualifier. This was 1 week after Vitality's owner, Fabien David, was quoted saying, "This is not a short-term project. We want this team to grow and eventually reach the majors and the top 10. And look where they are now, not even a week after qualifying for DreamHack Atlanta. So super exciting. And obviously not to be outshadowed by the drama with Forsaken, as I will continue to refer it as MVP PK won eXTREMESLAND Asia over Nasser. The Korean qualifier went on to win the event, dominating fashion. They won every series they played, only dropping one map on their run, and they absolutely hammered Nasser in the grand finals. And this was kind of a dodgy one, since it was in a way tainted by all the news of Forsaken happening. But that's pretty much what we're calling the weekly wrap-up of the news. There wasn't too much craziness going on besides all the cheating stuff, which I guess was enough to populate
There's a lot of cheaters getting caught right now, right? Like, we had some Swedish guys getting banned on Faceit, then this kid that just got banned on FPL, and of course, all starting from our godforsaken. The size of the land. Cojones
like that.
On freaking LAN and just cheat blatantly. Like, wow.
Yeah, ESEA is also cracking down too. I mean, they've always been, but it seems like a wave of vax or bans have been coming in. Someone might have squealed, or maybe they figured something out, but more cheaters down. Let's go. Let's go. Bring them down.
Yeah, what's happening with that? Do you think are people beginning to just crack down more on cheating right now after that event, or why do you think those number of of kind of back bans are coming in right now?
I mean, I think it has to do with a little bit. I think the Forsaken thing kind of maybe encourage people to look a little harder, maybe. But it seems like it always comes in waves because Hack's always one step ahead on anti-cheats, and once the anti-cheats catches up to that Hacks, they ban a whole bunch of people, and then the Hacks again get one step ahead of the anti-cheat, and then the cycle rinses and repeats. That's usually what happens for the most part. Because cheats are pretty good. I'm not a coder or anything, but I've heard about how coding works and all that kind of stuff, and it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. If you look in the wrong area, you're not going to find it. So if anti-cheat gets a hold of a cheat, they know where to look. They know what to look for in terms of the files and whatnot. Then it'll get detected and all that good stuff, and bans happen. So hopefully, it keeps on happening.
Right. I mean, geez. Just a crazy story. I mean, like, to break it down real fast, we'll go ahead and just kind of overview what was said about Forsaken, or what the incident that occurred. Basically, the OpTic India player got caught cheating at eXTREMESLAND by using what was essentially an aimbot. At the event right there, you see kind of the tournament admins just swarming his computer. Definitely didn't look good for him. This was the play in question, actually, that to my knowledge was reported triggered some sort of anti-cheat software at the event, and then also was coupled by a tournament admin noticing just sort of that erratic gunplay, as you see right here. Just, that's not normal at all. This one a little bit easier to hide, but it's pretty clear that Forsaken was using a cheat right now. And here was a pretty controversial moment. You see the admin go over to his computer, and I don't know if you guys happen to see this clip, but you see him sort of in a minute here just kind of battling the tournament admin, kind of throwing his hands off. I mean, like, honestly, just unacceptable. If you're wondering where the word.exe memes are coming from, it's right there. He tried to disguise it as such.
He is such ballsy.
And then obviously after the sort of announcement of what happened with him, people are digging up a lot of his old clips, and this right here is apparently the moment where Tyloo's Bentet said that he knew Forsaken was cheating. I'm not sure how long ago this was, definitely several months at least, but these sort of clips were pulling up, and people are starting to realize that this has been going on for a long time, and obviously there's
the memes.
Yeah, I love that one.
That's so crazy.
I mean,
it's so nuts, man.
Yeah, I mean, so just to give you a lowdown as well, right? Like, I think he came out with his statement yesterday, like an apology statement, which he emailed in to one of the publications, where it was a pretty long, very long-winded statement where he mentioned when he started cheating, why he cheated, and basically a long-winded apology to his teammates, to the OpTic management, and all of that. And he did also mention, alongside the OpTic India management, that the rest of the team were not aware of his cheats, right? I think that's the biggest issue right now. Like, obviously it's very 50-50. It's all circumstantial evidence. Some people, like, you saw his teammates' reaction, Marzel, his reaction to when he kind of fought with the admin, trying to prevent him from, finding the cheat. Some people look at his face. He looks really, shaken, and it's like he now knows, the jig is up. At the same time, you have other people saying, the guy actually looks genuinely surprised. He's like, what the hell are you doing, right? Or what the hell is this? So I think it's a lot of he said, she said at the moment. I saw the article in VP Sports as well. Some of them was factually correct. Some of it was also kind of rumors, nothing which is really concrete. But overall, just to wrap the entire thing up, I think because of him cheating on LAN, it just kind of blew up, right? Like there was, I felt kind of slight overreaction, at least from the Indian community. Obviously, for them, it's very emotional. They have this team who's really stepping it up. I mean, DaBears, you remember when Navi came out right from Ukraine, and they were just like beating everyone, and that kind of led to the Ukrainian scene becoming something in esports, right? You need a success story, and OpTic India were supposed to be that success story, trying to like elevate the Indian scene altogether, finally make them relevant. And then this happens, and obviously, it's not just a team, a player caught cheating. It's about, hey, you know what? You gave us our hopes and dreams and everything, and it just like shat all over it, right? I think that's why it's been kind of like a lot of rumors around, a lot of he said, she said's going on. I don't think anyone right now has all the facts on the table, to be very honest, right now.
Yeah, this is go on, Bears.
I was going to say that I mean, this was a huge thing for India in esports in general, because, as you said, with the Navi thing, they started winning, put them on the map, and then, they became respected and almost like heroes in their own country. I mean, if OpTic India were to be super successful and end up being like even a top 15, top 20 team in the world, I think that's still a pretty big accomplishment, especially for the country where, there's over 1 billion people. Or getting there at least. I think they're over 1 billion, like 1.1 or something
1.3.
like that. 1.3.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time before they become, a big esports force like China that coming up. So this kind of sets it back heavily in terms of just having confidence, having outside sponsors wanting to influence and pay, like OpTic. They took a huge risk by getting an Indian team, especially one that's hasn't even, like, they weren't even a team. They were just people picked up, open tryouts kind of thing, and this kind of crocked them together. As for the teammates knowing and not knowing for Forsaken, people say that the look of his face, what I see from his look is his nightmare coming to reality, because there's no way that you can not suspect this guy being a hacker in the past. You could watch one of his demos in the last like 6 months and they're blatant as hell. It's not just 1 or 2 clips. This guy is so absurdly blatant that you can't just turn a blind eye and then throw in all these excuses that you didn't know. They had an idea. The whole scene knew. The whole Asian scene said that they suspect this guy was hacking in the past. There's no excuse for this. I mean, I do feel sorry for their teammates because it happened, and maybe they gave him an extra chance. Maybe they couldn't think that he would actually cheat on land, but he did. And it's a shame, because in my eyes, he's blatant as hell. And I give 0 leeways to cheaters. It's not the same story as if one of your teammates to start randomly hacking. And it's also a little different than lower scenes, because right now OpTic, they were a professional team. It's a little different on a professional scale. You're supposed to be doing your homework. You're supposed to be watching your teammates, know every aspect. And I don't know. I have strong feelings on this. And I think I'm not going to say put his teammates in the same punishment, but I wouldn't, I don't know. They knew of him. There's no way you can't know about this guy from what I've heard. So that's my opinion, my 2 cents.
I mean, I'm pretty much on board with what you guys are saying. Like, this was obviously a huge blow for Indian CSGO, a scene that, to my understanding, has been steadily building over so long, and having the initiative from OpTic Gaming was obviously huge for them, right? And they do have this team that's showing a good bit of promise, and then this happens, and it just, like, I don't know, that one hurts, you know what I mean? It's definitely got to hurt, because a lot of people are in a way, it's super sad, but I'm noticing that people are they're mentioning India in this conversation, and it's like they sort of have a right to, but like at the same time they don't. Like, it is within India, but it's not. I don't think it should reflect on India. Do you know what I'm saying, Bleh?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Erik's points as well. The thing is, we just got to go back, like roll it back a couple of years, right? Like, if you look at what happened, like India as such, the big incident anyone in esports to remember was that IGC fiasco, which happened like 6 years back, I think 2012, when Moscow Fire came to India for an event, which was just, the organizers were just a bunch of, con men, basically. They con a lot of people, and that was a big shitfest, to put it very bluntly. And then we, of course, have after that we had the nothing, basically, for a number of years. But slowly but surely, the scene has been growing on its own in a very endemic fashion. We have a lot of smaller events taking place, like ESL India and whatnot. Like, teams are forming and playing and all that. But the thing is, it's not a mature scene, right? It's about to go there. Now, then OpTic comes in, and of course, there's been a lot which has been said and recorded and spoken and written about with regards to the mistakes Infinite has made with OpTic. Like, they branched out too fast all over the world, like the OpTic Brazilian, the female CS team. They went into SEA. They went into so many other games and stuff, which, without, in my opinion, they kind of spread themselves thin. They didn't really do the due diligence when it comes to how they would have done if it was, OpTic like a year back or something like that, right? Expanded really fast. And they just wanted to, get a foothold in a new market, which is a very smart business decision, if you ask me. When OpTic came in, I was like, this is very smart from them. You're not investing too much money, because India is kind of cheap when it comes to infrastructure, like paying the salaries, and it'd probably be like the entire project for the run rate for a month would probably be a salary of a player in maybe the main CS:GO squad, or probably even lesser, right? It's pretty cheap over here when it comes to that. So imagine, so they did the tryouts and everything. The checks and balances were not completely in place. And of course, Forsaken, he saw the holes and the loops, and he managed to fool everyone, right? At the end of the day, he is the guy who messed everything up for everyone. He is the one to blame. And there's also blame to lie in the system that, people were not just, ready, or were not wary enough that someone might sneak in through in this way, in this fashion. That happened. But yeah, coming to OpTic again, it made sense. You invest the money, you start building a team, start building a fan base. It's a big name. You have OpTic India. People in India are going to be like, this is awesome. More orgs are going to come in. Maybe Liquid might come in. Maybe a Cloud9 might come in, right? Maybe one of these big orgs might come in if this team finds success. And this team was finding success. They were winning tournaments. They were looking really solid. And even if you take away Forsaken from the equation, even if you put in a random fifth, I think the team was playing pretty well. They're playing pretty decent Counter-Strike, like good, solid, fundamentally sound Counter-Strike. Not the best, but pretty good, solid CS compared to most of the CS I've seen in the Indian scene. And I've been following the CSGO pros in India for at least 5 to 6 years, right?
Right.
And if it had clicked, it would have been huge, right? It could have been really good. They didn't have to be the best team in the world. They didn't have to be even a top 10 team, top 30 team in the world. That is something that team could aspire to be. That could have potentially worked out. Now, with all this thing happening right now, OpTic's out, obviously. I don't see any other orgs coming into the scene right now, at least for the foreseeable future. But apart from that, I still think it's not that bad. Like, we have DreamHack Winter happening at the end of the year. I think that's not DreamHack Winter, sorry, a DreamHack India Invitational, DreamHack Mumbai happening at the end of the year. I think that's pretty big. We have a few teams from outside flying in. So when it comes to the tournaments in India and gaming in general, and esports in general in India, I don't think it's going to really take a hit. It's still going to continue. It's one guy can't really kill that thing. It's still looking positive in my eyes. The only drawback here is we won't be seeing any orgs like OpTic or similar to OpTic coming in the near future, right? But for example, we have a couple of teams in the scene, like a team called Entity, who are right now by default the best team in the country. They're pretty good. They had very close games against OpTic, and I've heard rumors that they're planning to pick up an EU coach or maybe an EU in-game leader, because they saw that OpTic had a player from Germany, and he did manage to bring in the EU mentality, how to play Counter-Strike, and that helped the team a lot. So there are a lot of good things to take out of this. Also, all the TOs, all the stakeholders now know that this can happen, so the TOs will be more stringent with the way things go in the future. They're going to be better anti-cheats and cheat detection methodologies, whatnot, being implemented in all these tournaments. So there are positives to be taken from this. It's not all doom and gloom, in my opinion.
Okay, because that was sort of my next question. I'm sorry to cut you off, Bears, but I was just going to say that it's sort of I was thinking where does India go from here? But you're sort of under the impression that it's sort of going to figure itself out. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's right on that. It's a step back, a big step back, but you have esports is on the bubble of thriving over there, and with so many people, it'd be ridiculous for no big organization to try to tackle the Indian market. I mean, that's why OpTic signed this team. They wanted to tackle the Indian market. There's no big organizations from at least known to the West that, you know, like if you have a top tier organization hosting or sponsoring a team from India, they will probably become, you know, the team of India, and you'll have a lot of support, a big market, a lot of fans. And so I mean, it's smart by OpTic dropping the team. And I don't know if they mentioned if they're just stepping away. I think they said they're stepping away from India. I don't know if it's from just a team or India in general.
Shut down. I think that whole entire OpTic India, the OpTic India thing has been shut down. And this is so the thing with OpTic is they were shutting down a lot of the other operations outside after that firing spree that happened a couple of weeks back, I think 2 or 3 weeks back, where a lot of stakeholders you know, got fired, they got removed from their positions, and OpTic was kind of starting to like cut ties with all these investments they made into other games and whatnot. And I think they were just looking for an excuse to even cut OpTic India out of the picture. And now this happened. They're like, you know what? That's cool. We're out of here. And yeah, OpTic India is no longer a thing right now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a matter of time. I think maybe 6 months, another organization will probably try to find some options, because again, it's a numbers game for a lot of these investors. And you have 1 billion people, no one's tapping the market. It's going to get a lot of people excited and thinking about how they can take advantage of that. So setback, yeah, but it's a matter of time.
I completely agree with Erik there, because that's the thing, right? Sure, you let's imagine you're an investor, or you're like an org in the US or in NA or in EU or wherever, right? And you're like, okay, that thing didn't work out. What's stopping us from getting into the market? The community is going to be super happy. They're going to be like, oh my God, you guys actually came in despite all the shit that went down. People are going to be very thankful. And as long as you do your due diligence, you have your checks and balances in place, there's nothing stopping you from actually investing in it and starting to, build a fan following, start building your brand in what could be in a few years one of the biggest esports scenes in the world. I know we're still far away from that, but you come in now before it's while the metal's still hot, you can really have a footprint there. OpTic failed, but doesn't mean anyone else is, someone else coming in the future is going to fail as well. So I completely agree with Erik that I think we kind of agree on the point that it's not complete doom and gloom. It's not the end of anything. It's a slight setback, a minor setback, but it's okay. You learn, you adapt, and you move on.
It's great news to hear from you, Bleh. It's like I feel like you're like the preacher of the Indian scene. It's like, everything's gonna be okay, people. It's all gonna work. It's all gonna come together. But it seems like the interest is certainly there in India, so I think it definitely still remains relevant in terms of like a developing professional Counter-Strike scene in space. Sort of to cap off thought on the Forsaken note specifically was that the Esports Integrity Coalition had done an investigation and also discovered that he was found cheating at ESL India Premiership some time ago, which led to him getting a 5-year ban.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder
that happened. Go on.
It makes me wonder because they were talking about anti-cheat stuff, and as much as they say that they detected something, I find a little, I don't know, I kind of find I call a little bullshit on that, because obviously if they detected something from months ago in their logs, this would probably been brought up before this tournament. But since everything happened, how obvious this guy was, it probably went back, looked at his replays. Obviously, it's like, wow, this is still pretty obvious. Let's just cover our asses in our tracks, saying our anti-cheat works. Here we go. That's what I say, because it sounds a little fishy bullshit to me.
Right. I mean, I can agree with Erik where the timing is really, really rough. But from the statement, from what I read, where it was, so that Premiership LAN happened literally a week prior to the Shanghai event, and they have like SSDs given like to each of the individual players. So they went back and they checked the SSDs of all the 20 players, all the 4 teams who played in that tournament, and they found the same cheat files which was found in Shanghai on Forsaken's SSD. So I think that's what their statement was when it came to like, that's the evidence they had, and which they gave over to ESIC.
How long was this tournament? How long was this tournament? Do you guys know? How many months ago was it?
A week back. No, a week.
Oh, it was only a week
before he. Yeah, I was casting that event.
Oh, so it was just a week.
It was literally a week before that. Yeah,
because that makes a lot more viable. Because I was thinking, who doesn't erase their hard drives after the event or after a couple weeks after event? But if it's just a week, then they probably didn't get around to it or anything like that.
Yeah, so they hadn't. So what they said was they hadn't wiped the drives because there were no events which happened in that 10-day gap, which is kind of lucky for them, I guess. But that's the evidence they used, which they provide ESIC, and ESIC obviously. I mean, he got banned by ESIC, I think, a year and a half back, for having owned an account which got a VAC ban, but they didn't have proof that the VAC ban happened while he was owning the account. So the guy. He was like, yeah, I had an account, I sold it, and then he got a VAC ban. I wasn't cheating, so they reduced the ban sentence to like 6 months. After which he still continued to cheat. I mean, what an asshole!
Mm-hmm.
I think that.
What if they could check IP logs? But I'm digging too deep in the rabbit hole. Go ahead.
I'm saying that I don't know, I'm with Bears on the whole situation being kind of fishy. I mean, like, in terms of everyone saying they know, people were noticing it. It just kind of seems like the whole situation of cheating maybe isn't being taken as seriously as it can. And there's like a whole, like, obviously it is, but like I feel like people just try to turn like a blind eye to it in some cases, because like this kind of thing exploding is terrible for Counter-Strike esports, right? It's like almost it's a borderline nightmare. And there's instances where people have been caught match fixing and doing other shady things like cheating, like seriously competitive and integrity issues that are brought up. And people still go ahead to like recruit these players for their teams and like keep them just in the space. So it's like, how do we respond to that really? Is it like Valve, catching a cheater the way codes are made is like incredibly difficult, but like how do we really combat this? Is it like a mentality thing? Is it Valve cracking down on cheat codes, like detection softwares, like, or is it just like people got to know, like, you can't do this because like this is, I think, going to happen again. I mean, right? This probably isn't the last case of someone cheating, and that's like horrible to say, but this needs to be addressed.
I think it needs to be addressed, but here's the thing, right? Esports as a thing is still pretty young. I know it's been there for like, what now, 20 plus years, since the days of Quake and not, but it's still pretty young. And when you look at regions like Asia, like for example, I've heard stories which would blow your mind when it comes to the match fixing rumors I've heard in China. It's ridiculous. I've heard stories of tournaments made only for match fixing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's insane, but it's happening in China. And like, if you heard some of the names, some of the org names, you'd be like, yeah, you're just bullshitting me now, Bleh. That's what you would say. But obviously, I don't have proof. But I've heard some pretty damning stories, right? And that happens in China, not just in China. It happened. We were actually running a tournament a year and a half. This is kind of interesting, where we ran a tournament. It was an HLTV and everything. I was casting the event, and then they were all like, the Mongols were there. There were a couple of Chinese teams, all legit teams, right? Dreamscape and all these known Asian teams. And this is one team was kind of unknown, but the organizer invited them over. Now the organizer's from Vietnam, right? And he'd put in money. He's like, I want to sponsor this tournament. I want to make this tournament happen and all that. This team came in. And here's where it gets interesting. The team, the team flag and everything, it shows they're from Philippines. Now, there is one Filipino team in the tournament called Mineski. I mean, pretty famous org. Mm-hmm. The players, they're kind of like tier 2, tier 3 Asian team. And I just spoke to a couple of the players because I know them pretty well. And they're like, Bleh, we don't know these guys. The Filipino scene is very, very small. We have no idea who these guys. These guys are kind of unknown, right? But they're pulling off some pretty decent wins here and there. Some pretty big upsets here and there. And then when Mineski faced off against these guys in the server, the Filipino guys, they started speaking to them in Filipino in the server. These guys never replied. They never spoke. They just played the game, GG, well played, and they left the server. And that's when HLTV started getting a little suspicious, and they're like, "Hey, can you guys just try and find the log, the IP logs?" We found IP logs, and it turns out these guys are playing from Vietnam. The organizers from Vietnam. These guys are from Vietnam, all unknown accounts. We confronted the organizer, and he just went AWOL completely, just disappeared. And we obviously shut down the tournament, and we were like, "Yeah, we're not continuing with this event anymore." That's what happens in Asia. That's been what's been happening right now. It's like kind of come down a little bit, obviously, with CS:GO getting bigger and bigger, or esports in general getting bigger and bigger. But it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time. OpTic had the best intentions, but they didn't have, I guess, the right decision makers, unfortunately, right? Like from what I heard, they were aware. They were given the lowdown that this guy has a pretty checkered past. He has this ESIC ban and whatnot. Are you sure you want to go ahead with him? I think that's what some of the scouts who were there at the tryout said. Because according to his statement, according to some of the scouts who were there, he did not cheat at the LAN event, at the tryouts, at the LAN tryouts, right? But OpTic, they went ahead with it, right? So that's the thing. Like, these checks and balances need to be in place. They had the right intentions. It just didn't, it wasn't executed well enough, right? And a lot of people had a role in playing that. It wasn't just OpTic. It was, a lot of things happened there, right? And likewise, like, just coming back to the story I told you about these Asian things, it's something which is going to change as the scene grows. Now, the Indian scene right now, I can tell you for a fact, they're gonna, like, all the stakeholders are really going to pull their pants up now. They're not going to take things for granted. They know how big of a mess up it can be. All it requires is one dumb kid who has no idea about the impact of his actions. All it requires one kid to just ruin everything for a lot of people. That's all that's needed. And there is no dearth of dumbass kids around there, right? So you need these incidents to happen. You don't need it, but once it happens, it can only lead to a better scene eventually, right? So I think it's a matter of time, to answer your question. It's gonna take some time, but once there's more transparency, once esports is more, I don't want to use the word mainstream, but you know what I'm trying to get here. Once it's more
established
there, that's established. Yeah, that's the right word. I think that's when these sort of incidents might slowly subside.
I'm with you on that, Bleh. I think there is definitely some good takeaways from this scenario, and that's that if you get caught cheating, you are going to be the laughing stock of the internet for a while. You know what I mean? Like, the memes, like, you just get literally freaking rolled on. You know what I mean? Like, Forsaken's probably got to be feeling it a little bit.
More scared of his life. Like, it's no joke in India.
No.
They will lynch you for doing shit like this. Like, it's no joke. Like, literally,
the thing is, Erik would probably fly down. Erik would probably fly down and lead that. That's Erik right there. He's like,
I'd have a nice talk. I wouldn't do anything physical or violent. I just have a nice talk with him and just ask him what he's doing. What are you doing?
What are you doing here?
What are you doing, man? Why are you cheating?
It's ridiculous, right? Like, think about it. I spoke about this earlier as well, where I'm like, okay, all right, you cheated. You've cheated online for a while. You've managed to con your way through to a cushy job, one of the rarest jobs in a country like India, where you're being paid to play video games under a name like OpTic. You made it, you dumb piece of shit. You made it. There is no need to cheat anymore. And this guy's like, yeah, I wasn't really feeling it with my aim. There was a little bit of RNG, so I decided to use aimbot cheats or whatever. He literally said that in his statement. He's like, I knew the game, but I didn't like the RNG, so I wanted to be better at aiming, so that's why I used my cheats on LAN, $100,000 LAN on stage in China. I don't know. I don't even, man. I don't even.
It's so dumb.
People are gonna do anything to win. It's just like real sports. There's steroids. There's cheating in real sports. Even after an established sport's been around for 100 years, there's still every person will do whatever it takes to win matches, championships, whatever it is. And for CS:GO, for video games in general, the aimbot is so good. Well, his wasn't that good, but some of the aimbots out there are so good that you can't tell by the human eye. So I'm thinking that the next step into detecting cheats has to be done with like some kind of AI assisted like algorithm where maybe the aim is too smooth. It's like you can probably tell the difference between computer aim and real aim on a number level if you have the right algorithm.
Right.
And I hope they can figure that out. So then aimbotting will be a way, not a thing. Obviously, there's other hacks that you can do that it might not be detected, but at least if aimbot's gone, at least, they have to rely on their aim, and then not some computer program hitting headshots all day.
All day, baby. Yeah, this is really going to prompt a lot of those questions. So in a way, like that's definitely another thing to look forward to out of this whole mess. I want to bring up one question in the chat because we're live, baby. We're taking questions. So bring the love, bring the hate, bring it all, bring it all. We're taking it all in, and we're just bringing it together. From Awesome Zero, he says, do you think VP Esports report that YB said OpTic to remove Forsaken from the team is true? Can't really decipher that entirely. I think he's trying to say that the coach in IGL of OpTic India was going to remove Forsaken before the incident.
All right, so I've heard this particular rumor, right? So it's he said, she said. I don't know the actual truth behind this, the full truth. From what I heard, it was in the first week or the second week of boot camp is when YB, who's a German coach / in-game leader they brought in to play, he spoke to the manager and he was like, I'm not very sure about this guy. He's kind of fishy. He's kind of weird, right? So both of them, they sat down with Forsaken and they grilled him, and then he came up with this thing where he's like, my mouse is faulty. That's what he said, right? And I spoke to YB about this as well, and he said this is like his mouse is faulty, and he moves it like, whenever he'd like flick his mouse, it would just behave weird. It'll kind of like spaz out, kind of had like a weird snappy movement. And both the manager and YB tried out the mouse, and they're like, could be. But the thing was, whatever reasoning he used to explain whatever suspicion YB had on him, it kind of like pacified YB. YB said, oh, all right, that kind of explains it. And this is like the first and second week, and after that they played for like 3 months together, and they never really raised anything. So I've heard that it did happen, but it wasn't like OpTic were like, no, shut up, he's going to play. That's not what happened, to the best of my knowledge. What I know is YB accepted that, hey, he's probably clean, and it just carried on. Because I spoke to those teammates of his on a LAN like 2 or 3 months after that, and they were like all friendly. They were all like, they felt like an actual unit, right? They actually felt like a proper full-fledged team. It wasn't like, it didn't look shady at all. And I get Erik's, he obviously has his misgivings, and he's probably going to be like, yeah, I don't really believe these other guys. But at least for someone like White, the thing is, he came all the way from Germany to India to make something happen. Bear in mind, he doesn't know any of these 4 players. He's trying to make something of his career, right? Someone like him, I still find it hard to believe that he would swallow this and like let it go. Like it's just basic risk analysis. You're a player. He's a pretty older guy. Even his teammates as well. If you knew your teammate was cheating, and no matter what happened, if you kept quiet, and if you're really convinced about it and you kept quiet, when he did get caught, and eventually would obviously get caught, that's the end of your career. That's it. It's over. GG. Well played. Just get out of here, right? So I really find it hard to believe that they would knowingly continue to play with him. They might have had his suspicions, but they just didn't have enough proof, right? And some of those clips, they look very damning. Like, in fact, one of the earlier clips he had, like, for example, the train one was something I saw a long time back as well. But for me, right, it's also like, hey, you saw, if you look at the pro players, you see these crazy clips and you're like, he's probably cheating. But unless you have, actual, like, proof, as in like some anti-cheat catching his cheats, a software like that, it is a very tough call to make. Look at Robs, right? We have like people like JW saying the guy's a filthy cheater, and he's in Mouse Sports now, like, for example, right?
JW is an idiot.
Sorry?
So JW's an idiot sometimes. He says stuff on Twitter.
I like the memes.
He'll say stuff on Twitter. He'll regret it.
I think the problem is, like, we kind of forget how young most of these players are. I'm not just talking about like the Indian players or whatever. Like, generally, like, esports players are pretty young, pretty hot-headed and all that. But yeah, I think the biggest problem here, the biggest flaw in the Forsaken drama was the fact that he was given the benefit of the doubt by too many people.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest problem here.
And completely abused it.
And he abused it. I mean, end of the day, like people talk about Indian scene, blah, 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 this, that. Hey,
it's all him.
You know what? It's one guy. It's all him. The blame is all on him. Some people I mean, I don't think anyone really gained anything from putting him up on, in OpTic and making him perform. No one had anything to gain, to be very honest, right? People have lost jobs because of this. No one wanted to, put a cheater on a team, for crying out loud. It's all on him. It's all on him. And I don't think we should allow him to really, hijack what the future of the region when it comes to esports. I think he's done and dusted. He's over with. 5-year ban. I think it's a lifetime ban in my opinion. No one's going to play with him. It's done and dusted. Let's move on. We have better things coming.
Right on. Well, on that note, let's go ahead and move on to something a little more current, a little more exciting, and a lot less dodgy than Forsaken's BS, which is the Epicenter playoffs happening right now. They are starting this weekend, rather. I think the top 6 teams were seeded, being Liquid, NIP, FaZe, Na'Vi, Hellraisers, and Vengar are the last 6 teams remaining. One thing about this event that I've noticed is that we've had some pretty, needless to say, interesting commentary. I put together a quick little package of some of the highlights from just day one that I had noticed, and the quick bit of time that I was able to watch Epicenter. So let's go ahead and roll that for you guys. Give it a look.
It's peaceful down here.
It is. I heard that. Those birds chirping. It felt like when you stay up too late. Were you just thinking about Freakazoid's nipples?
A little bit.
Oh, he got hit hard by a gun he wants to have.
Gimme, gimme, gimme. Come here.
He's not a goblin.
I'm not a gnome.
Yeah, you are.
Stop the game.
You're feeling spicy. You're feeling spicy.
I am Indian, so yes, I like my spice.
That's good. That's good. You should. What's got you in this mood? Oh. Hey, that was musical.
That was a jingle.
That was nice. And he gets that shot. Oh, that's got me. That was so wholesome. Wholesome.
It sounded like a turkey's in your throat. Right? What are you laughing about?
Turkeys.
Turkeys, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Oh, where are these bullets going? Oh my gosh. Oh my goosh.
7th. Oh my gooch.
That's kind of what we had put together. Scrawny and Launders were putting on quite a show, I think. I'm not sure if I would classify it as more dynamic or awkward or what here.
I love them. I love those guys. I did a little work with them on the EPL back, I think, 2 seasons ago.
Nice.
When Scrawny made his debut and whatnot, and Launders was here, and they're hilarious, and I think they're really awesome at what they do, and it kind of gives us a little different dynamic. You have, the serious contenders of broadcasting, like Moses, Henry Jean, and Anders, and all those guys, the Tier 1 events who, they throw a little banner here and there. They like sprinkle it on, but these guys are more of really relaxed, loose kind of calling, and I really like that. I think it's pretty entertaining, and I mean that entire clip I was cheesing because it's just funny. They're funny guys.
I think Launders, right? Like when he started out, obviously knows a lot about the game, but he's always come off early in his days as kind of not very, I wouldn't say camera friendly, but a little stiff in his presentation. But with with the Scrawny, they just seem to have this really good banter going, and it's very natural, it's very organic, and yeah, I love listening to these two guys. I think they're I want to see them in more Tier 1 events now. Good stuff.
I mean, commentary-wise, I like what they're doing. I think they both have a great tone, and sometimes the little bit of banter maybe is overbearing, but I like it. It makes for good content for sure. Those two on the desk.
Keep it up, guys. Keep
great.
it up.
I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest. When you're watching Liquid completed dumpster Avangar, you need that banter.
Yeah, you need that color commentary.
Depressing. Liquid are completely shitting on Avangar right now. What else can you say, right? So.
Well, yeah, let's talk about some of the matches. How do you guys think Liquid is looking right now? I think they're looking strong. I know Bears has sort of a different opinion on how they tend to close out these events.
First of all, I think Liquid's a strong team. Don't get me wrong; they're a very solid team. My beef with them is that they can't close out as well as they start. A lot of games they always, end up, in the lead or, beating some team by playing well, and then as soon as they get to that game point, a little pressure's on. They don't play to their level, and so that's my only beef with them. Otherwise, tactically, they're awesome. They have variety of tactics. Zeus has been doing great with coaching. Their in-game decisions are, a lot of times are on point. NAF is always a beast. Elige has been kind of, I think, a little quiet lately, but Twist, he's been pretty much been the MVP, at least in the last couple tournaments that I've noticed, score-wise, that is.
Right on.
And I just think they're a really solid team, but they could probably, if they can figure that out, that anxious, nervous kind of, I guess I could call it performance anxiety. I think they could become a contender against Astralis, like on a consistent basis. I think they're that good. They just have to get over their performance anxiety.
Where you at with that, Bleh? What are you thinking about Liquid?
Yeah, that's a scary thing, right? Whenever they start looking so solid, that's when they, no other word for it, they choke in the finals. And by the looks of it, they're going to be facing off against Na'Vi or FaZe. FaZe look shaky, they look very shaky, right? But Na'Vi, they seem to be looking extremely, extremely good. Like Electronic, Simple, just the best duo in the game right now. They seem to kind of like shrugged off that ESL New York event, the disaster for Na'Vi, and they seem to be looking much more solid. I think they're going to be a solid contender as well. But this is an event Liquid should win. Like, it's high time, guys. Like, it's high time you have a title. I don't think this team's ever going to be satisfied with getting to semifinals or just being the runners-up anymore. They need a win. And I think getting that win is what's going to be the catalyst for this team, not just being, a top 2, top 3 team, but being a championship team. The second they get a taste of a W, that's when they're going to be able to contest with the likes of an Astralis. And this happened with Astralis back in the day. If you remember TSM, they were kind of like Liquid, the old TSM, where it was Fetish and Cajun B was there. I think Fetish was there, not too sure. But they were looking very solid. They were like the second, third best team. And it took a while until they started winning a couple of events. That's when it clicked for them, right? Of course, they were still not the team they are right now. Right now, they are just an unstoppable machine, right? But I think that's where Liquid are right now. Bear in mind, they're all very young players. They need a win desperately. And Epicenter right now, it's literally theirs for the taking. They need this game. They need this tournament.
Well, I know people wanted them thinking it's theirs for the taking, but you got to look at the teams left at Epicenter. Out of the 4 out of the 5 teams that they have to play, I guess, potentially to play next at Epicenter, those 4 out of 5 teams are top 10 teams of the world. Na'Vi, FaZe, Hellraisers, NIP. Yeah, NIP's been kind of up and down. FaZe is kind of on the ropes, but still, hey, Hellraisers, no joke. Na'Vi's obviously no joke. So it's I don't want people to, be so let down if Liquid doesn't win this event. Yes, you're right. They desperately need to win an event. They've got so many second places, never always a bridesmaid, never a bride, but they have to, they have to win this, but just don't be too surprised if they don't. These teams aren't no pushover. And, we know
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost to Na'Vi, to be very honest, because Na'Vi are looking, I wouldn't say like as good as Liquid, but they're looking very good right now. But I'll be honest, I'll be a little surprised if they lose to the likes of a shaky FaZe. Avangard, come on. Then you have Hellraisers, who, yeah, they're pretty decent, but Liquid are by far better than them. NIP, of course, looked very shaky as well, right? And if they lose to any of these other 4 teams apart from Na'Vi, okay, I'll give FaZe a go, because they might just all step up on the finals whenever they meet up against them. You have freaking Nico, Guardian, Rain, and Olaf, right? Like all 4 of them go off. I think Liquid's gonna have a very rough time. But apart from that, I just don't see them losing to these guys. They've not just won their games convincingly. I didn't see any flaw in the way they're playing. They were just literally just death matching against certain teams, like running around with 2 SGs, 2 AUGs, just like, for like almost like Forsaken just aimbotting their way through it, and that's just great to watch, right? But with that level we've seen from them so far in this tournament, if they lose against NiP or Hellraisers or Avangard, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm done with this team, honestly.
I think NIP's maybe a slide. I mean, NIP, they're inconsistent, but they've won tournaments. They've won big tournaments recently, so it's not like they're completely out of the loop. They just, which NIP's showing up? Which showing up? I don't know. The good one, bad one? Who knows?
I don't know.
But is the best NIP as good as Liquid, though?
If it's in the finals, yes. If it's in group stages, Liquid things.
The kryptonite.
There you go.
Bleh, I'm with you on the fact that Liquid is sort of like walking on thin ice, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, there's been all this hype around them for so long, like since they got Taco, and then they started to like slowly get back into form. They had beat Astralis at the major, I believe, and came close to winning New York. And it's like, we're sitting here, the fan base is like sitting here on the edge for so long, ready to just take the freaking Liquid plunge, and they just, you know what I mean? That they cock block us, for lack of a better word.
And the sad thing, Cody, is it's even if they lose this tournament, the fact to turn on them, no one's going to turn on them. Everyone's going to recognize that they're still a really, really, really good team. It's that the team themselves just might turn on themselves. They might just mentally break. They might be like, yeah, we're not winning any more events. Screw this. I'm going back to my hometown, joining, eat shit. So that they're their own worst enemy, no one else. And I think they got to figure this shit out.
Yeah, I could totally see it happening. Just after the event, just taking Taco in the back and just sacrificing him. I think we need your live, Taco.
Find some information for us, Taco. Run out. Yeah. Tell us how many are in this bomb site, Taco. Flash for me, Taco. Taco, bait for me, Taco. While he's taking all the dirt and everyone's hating on the guy, they're still winning games. He's doing something right. Doesn't matter about score. Got all these superstars. Come on. Someone has to do the dirty work. Tacos is just the garbage man. He does his dirty work. But it works.
Pretty much. That's where he's at right now. So we definitely spent a good amount of time talking about Forsaken, so the Epicenter portion right here can't be probably as long as I'd like it to be. But let's what I'd like to do is get some predictions from you guys in terms of who's going to be winning these next matchups. First off, we have Vanguard versus Hellraisers, which I think is going to be a good game. Two teams that are relatively in the same bracket. I haven't actually gotten to watch a Vanguard play at this event, just based off my schedule. But who do you think could be coming out on top here?
I'm going to say Hellraisers just because I know them better. I've been seeing a Vanguard's name pop up here and there in the last 6 months, but I've never really followed them or watched their matches. So, I mean, they have potential. They've beat some good teams in the past. They've done it, and so, I mean, I'm not going to completely call them out, but I still think Hellraisers are going to beat them. Let's go 2-1 because they're improving. 2-1 Hellraisers.
What about you, Bleh?
I'm gonna go with HR because the thing with Avangard, yeah, sure, they had that 2-1 win over NiP. I think it was an overpass or something, and they're an okay team, right? They're a pretty decent team, especially Buster. Jamie has been quite a revelation, ever since I think it was calling early on. He's not calling anymore, so he's really been kind of. They have decent individuals. They have some pretty cool strats here and there. They're a pretty decent team, but let's be honest, Hellraisers, yeah, they might struggle against like the tier 1 team, the S tier teams, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think they're gonna really fall apart against Avangard, especially OpTic and East guys more than enough to just shut things down. And I think, yeah, I agree with Erik. I think I'll go with 2-1 as well. I think Avangard do have to at least win their map. But the problem is, even their map. I was taking a look at the maps that they play, and the maps that they're pretty comfortable on are maps that HR are pretty damn good on as well. So that's a problem right there. Like they beat NiP and Overpass, but HR damn decent in Overpass as well.
Right.
And the other maps, like I'm sorry, I think it was I think I'm gonna beat them on Overpass, and even the other maps they play on, like Dust 2 or Cash. These are maps where players like Isa and Walks just go off, and even if Mirage comes in, it's going to be a problem for them. So I really don't see them pulling off the win against HR in any universe. They might, but they're not going to take the win.
I'm on board with this call right here. I think it's going to be definitely a close match, similar skill sets, but overall I'm a big fan of Hellraisers in general. Like, I love Woxic. I love what he does with the snipe. Definitely just can be a bit of a scrappy team, fun to watch. And yeah, it will be a problem in terms of like the map pool and like the similarities there. But while it's a problem for them, it's definitely a bonus for us as a viewer. Get to see some close CS right there. So that's kind of where I'm at too. I'm gonna say 2-0 for Hellraisers though. And give them that little bit of push, a little reload luck for them.
There you go.
In terms of FaZe and IP, this is definitely an interesting one. While a few months ago I would have said FaZe clearly, I'm not too sure anymore, honestly. Where's where you at? Oof is right.
Even FaZe is having problems. They're still an okay team, but man, NIP. Like my body's telling me NIP. Just because this is going to complete the FaZe shakeup. FaZe will lose the NIP, and then FaZe will finally get rid of Kerrigan, and then they're going to bring on someone else. Who, you may ask? I'm not sure. But it will happen. Let's say that. I say NIP over FaZe 2-1.
If Bears is saying NIP, if he's saying his body is feeling it, and we're talking DaBears, the yoga master, who last week told me about the
Not a yoga
chakra. This is the answer right here. Okay. Where are you at with this, Bleh?
I think DaBears, his nips. I tell it's going to be nip, that particular part of his body.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
Low hanging fruit, guys. Low hanging fruit. I got to go with it. Look, both the teams have looked a little shaky, right? Like FaZe have looked pretty decent, but they got completely destroyed on the second map today against Na'Vi, and they didn't even look close. They had some big individual plays here and there from like Nico, some clutches here and there, but nothing special. Train was slightly closer, but it never kind of felt like not the driving seat. And that phase, if you see this phase against NIP, they're going to have a rough time. And NIP, on the other hand, they lost to Avangard. So I probably need a coin for this, but gut feeling says FaZe are going to take it. It's going to be an SC game, a third mapper. It's going to be close. It's going to be a lot of clutches, individual plays coming in, but I think FaZe should take it. But I don't really fault Erik for going with NIP either. It's a very 50 game.
Okay, so we're split right now, which means I'm the decider of the match. I got the.
Are you going to go with Nips?
I don't know. Bears Nips are very tempting, I will say. But in terms of the matchup, yeah, like it's going to be close. But I'm thinking like a coin toss could do a better job than me predicting this matchup right here. Nip can come out hot, like we've seen him do it. Got a lot of very skilled individual players, as does FaZe. I think personally, if Nip can put FaZe on the back foot early, then that's going to be their best shot, because FaZe, as we've seen, as I saw against Na'Vi, my impression was that once they were put on the back foot, they started to fall apart. And I don't think Nico in his IGL role is really kind of pulling the weight of really leading that team, keeping, the whole mentality, everything in the game together. So I see them falling apart. If NIP comes out on top, if I had to go with one of the other, Bears Nips aside, I'm saying Ninjas and Pajamas here, honestly. But I think it could be close. I really have no idea.
You never know in CSGO.
You don't. That's the thing. So I think this one is going to be, I really couldn't say. But one huge narrative of Epicenter 2018 in Moscow, the Ice Palace. You have Liquid, obviously, FaZe. You want to see Na'Vi getting back to their winning ways. But one story that everyone is sort of reluctant to touch on and bring to life is what the hell is going on with Stunna's mustache. Can we talk about this thing right now?
That's amazing.
What I'm talking about.
I need a
Reynolds'
screenshot
body?
of this.
I don't know. I found this. He retweeted it.
It's amazing.
That is a quality picture. Credit to Wet Coast Life, which sounds a little provocative, to be honest. But
It's always a little provocative.
really hit the nail on the head. But my personal interpretation of Stunna's mustache was that I think he looks like Mac from Super Troopers. Somebody prove me wrong here.
There you go.
Okay.
I like that. Look at that. got this big look on his face. Confused, startled at the same time. Right there, Stunner looks like he just said something to Thorin, and he's just regretting that decision as he's looking at the camera.
That is
a very uncanny resemblance, to be honest.
It's exceptional.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I said. I said, "What? Mac is doing Counter-Strike now?"
Yeah, they're trying to be funny. They bring up the banter, the extra step at Epicenter. They got Thorin. He's just his gloves are off. Thorin doesn't give a fuck anymore.
No.
He's just he doesn't care. He knows that he's in the driver's seat. Whatever he does is going to turn to gold. So he's playing that side of the die, and it's working for him. And he's going to keep getting hired until he says something extremely racist or he rapes someone. It's usually the two things that get you fired from work in America or in the world. So there you go.
All right. I actually had this image like yesterday. I think it was Stunna and Maniac who were casting a game and just tuned in. And turns out that Harry, Hugo, and Thorin, the cab they were in took them to the wrong venue from the hotel. So they were stuck in traffic for 2.5 hours. So I was just imagining a furious Thorin and Hugo and Harry, two young ones, like 20, I think like 20 or 21 years of age, and it's like they, cuddle up against each other, like curled up in the corner of the cab, and Thorin just going off at the cab driver, and the cab driver has no freaking idea what he's saying. I would pay money.
I could see Thorin just talk to himself like, what the fuck? Just him just shaking his head. This is a Thorin move, just talking like this and just world bow down.
This is absolute BS. This is crap. Get me to the station. I can see it now. I have to do a horrible Thorin impression, but I agree. If you put a camera in there, that could probably be a segment of its own, to be honest. Just some quick cuts.
Even it's like seeing him rage. He's the new Mo.
I need to get my hands on that footage, wherever it is. But speaking of banter, let's go ahead and transition real quickly to our banter of the week. I don't know if you guys, and Thorin, obviously, speaking of him, he tweeted out last week, I think it was last week, October 23rd, 2 days ago. I'm so off for time. But basically, he's saying that if you remember Two Eggs, who was the Betway-sponsored chicken at the London Major, who was pecking out of a box of chicken feed to predict a winner, was paid £500 a day.
Who was being paid £500?
The handler. I'm sorry, the handler was
All
played.
right, so this is like giving the 500. Why so much?
I don't know.
You can buy a chicken for like $10 and just throw it on there. You can do the same things. And eat out
That's a
food.
trained chicken, Eric. It's a trained chicken. It was analyzing the stats. It was looking at all the the map picks and
You're right.
whatnot.
Jeez.
I mean, sure,
mean that.
it got it wrong. It got most of it wrong, but you know what? It's okay. So do analysts. I've got it wrong. Like I had a horrible streak at one of the DreamHack Opens where I had like 80% of predictions wrong. So it's completely reasonable. It's understandable. Industry rates being followed by Faceit, even though it was for a chicken handler. I need to change my career, get into chicken handling.
One of us could have been one of us could be on the desk, but they decided to hire a chicken in place. That just shows you my value in the CS:GO community. a chicken is above my skills, and so that brings me a lot of confidence. A lot of confidence.
The day rate of that chicken's making like $100,000 a year. Okay, he can buy whatever he wants. Fancy coop. I don't know what acres of land for him to just flock around.
Wait,
chickens
was
flock.
it a rooster or a chicken?
That's a good question.
I think
That's
it was. I don't remember. I think it was a rooster. Was it not?
I have no idea, dude.
Information was unconfirmed.
But it's
Let's
like
say
2
rooster,
eggs.
all right.
2 eggs.
And guess
But the
what?
name says 2 eggs, and only hens lay eggs. So
Yes. So it's a conundrum.
Was this
Regardless,
like 2 chains?
what would a rooster want? Hens to bang. That's it. That's all it says. That's literally the rooster's job is to bang hens. The whole lot. That's literally their job. That's why you only have 1 rooster on a farm and a bunch of hens. Fun fact for you.
is that why they're
There you
also
go.
called cocks? Or
Yeah, I think so. Well, I don't know if that's
this
what
took a
cocks, but
really weird
They are.
turn of saying.
They are impregnating hens. Okay, there you go.
This This was supposed to be maybe a right turn, and it convened off the side of the road, flipped the car. I'm constantly on fire right now. Confirm in the chat. Awesome says it was a chicken, not a rooster. There you go.
Oh well.
I don't know
What
if
would
the
a
source
chicken
on
want
that,
then?
but yeah.
Chicken
Why
just
did the
wants to
chicken
get
cross
out.
the road to go to the Face It
Wants to buy
Major?
freedom. Wants to buy its
Booyah.
freedom. 500 pounds a day.
Right
Give
on.
me a break.
I had to bring that up. I thought that was hilarious. 2 eggs, just raking in the cash. Definitely something quality to put to life on the reload. Before we go, though, we'll finish it off real fast with a nice play of the week. Nice and simple. Triple from Oscar. You guys might have seen it, but try to put him in every show. So let's let this one do the talking for itself.
Chris J, ready to hunt. Doesn't really stick the landing though with the Krieg, and they have got a kit, but Oscar's so good in these situations. We killed the studio with the hype. What the hell?
I broke the network cable. I fixed it.
I wondered.
Oh God!
My goodness, that's so unlucky.
Literally broke the. One more time for your eyes. Boom. See ya.
There you go. That's like
That is so rare, and it happens in an actual official game. That's so cool.
Yeah, and literally,
Yeah,
I don't
think to
know.
yourself.
I don't know who it was,
Because,
but
you
he's
know-
staring down the barrel, just like, oh.
I mean, obviously, at that level, you make a conscious decision not to line up with each other because for a chance for that happening. So as soon as all 3 of them, I could probably feel the feeling as you're hopping towards the bomb. You see 2 of your teammates hop right in front of you. You know what's going to happen. You have that feeling back. You're like, oh shit, I hope he doesn't double me. Guess what? You got tripled. It sucks. It sucks.
You got
Oh, baby, a triple!
That
I
was
did double
gorgeous.
scout the other day. That felt great.
I did make a very heavily edited, what I want to say, for lack of a better word, like memified version of that on the Reload's Twitter. I don't know if you guys got to see it, but definitely for those of you watching, check that out.
Check it out.
Kind of wish I had put it on the show.
It's all
to be
about memes,
honest, but
baby.
It
all about
really
the
is,
memes.
to be honest. It's the new meta.
It's all what people care about. That's all they care about is memes.
It's big, man. We gotta laugh, have
That is
fun
true.
at this whole event. But hey, that's pretty much gonna wrap up this episode of the Reload. Bleh, Bears. As always, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in. As always, Bleh.
Pleasure.
Especially, I know it's midnight over there.
Pleasure.
Probably
That's
later
good.
at the
Trooper.
moment.
He's a warrior.
Fuck yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks again, and we will be in touch.
Adios. Thank you.
Adios, my boys. Hey guys, that's going to do it for this episode of The Reload. Huge shout out to UGC Studios for putting on the event. Obviously, Bleh, our Asian Counter-Strike expert, and DaBears, our resident correspondent of Counter-Strike. Obviously, a lot of action going on with Epicenter right now. Liquid looking like the favorites right now, but who really knows what's going to happen? No one. Definitely got a good show out of it today. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter. We're always trying to pump out the best of CSGO, bring to life the most entertaining stories, and touching on the more serious ones. And it's all part of the competitive scene love. So go ahead and follow us on Twitter at TheReloadFM. We try to post there all the time. And tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. CT to watch the live show. We are live. We got people in the chat asking questions. We try our best to answer those and just have a good time. So that'll do it for this week. I will see you guys next week. My name is Cody Luongo. I'll catch you later.